probably thinking, how? Like, bro, I'm 29, I have my own place, I pay my own bills, nobody can tell me nothing. Like, how am I not an adult? And that's a good question, Bobby.
That's a good question, Bobby.
Did we know that the amount of people unemployed and out of education, I don't want to say doing nothing because, like, I like to say fun employed. The amount of people that are fun employed, so they're out of education and they're not working, is like at an all-time high. Well, at least in the US and in the UK, like, it's just going higher and higher and higher and higher and higher. So it's looking like less of us are actually getting the chance to do adult things because the people them just can't afford it. We cannot escape and we cannot get out.
Escape, we cannot come out. Mama, we're trapping at this bomber.
So let me show you guys what I mean. I saw a video the other day on TikTok, but it was by BBC News, and it got me thinking. So let's watch it.
To state the obvious, I'm not going to bring a girl back to my parents' house, and I'm 26 years old.
Still living with your parents in your mid-20s? Well, you're not alone. Data we commissioned shows that more than 4 in 10 25-year-olds still live with their parents, and that used to be closer to 2 in 10 back in the 1990s.
I think there's no world where it's normal to be 26 years old still living at home. It's unfair on me, it's unfair on my parents.
But not everyone sees it that way.
Once you get over that sort of initial, I'm moving home and I'm a failure, actually you get a pretty sweet deal when you're at home. Would never ever be able to afford a house like this on my own. Having a garden, the shower here is really good. There's a dishwasher, which I didn't have in my flat before.
For some, living at home offers a bit more space, support and a chance to save. Our data shows home ownership among 25-year-olds has fallen off a cliff. In the mid-80s, more than 40% of 25-year-olds owned their own home. Today, it's just less than 15%.
I'd love having them at home. Sometimes it is a little bit too much. But you know, I was able to buy my own house when I was 30. We used to take it for granted. It was your route, it was your passage. And I think now it's really privileged if you can afford to have your own house.
Now let's talk about it because I have a lot to say. And I even went through the comments in that video and some of them were quite funny. I have to go back so that I can remember to talk about it. But my first takeaway is that adulthood, so now I'm an adult, which sometimes in my head I still don't feel like I'm an adult. I feel like I'm 17, 19 at most. Me and my friends always say that. But anyways, I'm an adult, 22-year-old woman. Yeah. But where I am at 22, where I am now, is not where I thought I would be when I was in primary school. Life is just different. When I was in primary school, I thought that I was gonna go to America for university, or even if I didn't go to America for uni. Oh, I finally got it. Anyways, I thought that I was gonna be living in America. I thought that I'd be tall, which you're probably like, what have I got to do? Anyways, I thought I'd be tall. I thought I would be like just giving grown woman, like feeling like a woman at 22. I thought I'd be living on my own. Thought I'd be living on my own. I thought I'd have like this really amazing job that I racked in so much money. And I can very much tell you that I'm not doing that. I am not doing that. But it's not like it's just me. That is the case for like hundreds, thousands, millions of people around the UK. Where you thought you'd be as an adult is not where you are. And I feel like, especially in my year, my generation, it almost feels like, why? I don't want to say things were better in the past, because every year, every like generation has had their issues. But it's like, it's always when it gets to our turn to do something that things just go to shit. Adulthood doesn't feel like adulthood. And now, more and more, I understand why people in their 30s say your 30s are your real 20s. Because Lord knows, this period of life that me and a lot of other people in their very early 20s, let's say early 20s to mid 20s are in, is about trying to figure out where you are. I feel like you spend most of your time trying to find your feet than you do actually living, if that makes sense. Like, a lot of my friends either graduated last year or have graduated this year. I graduated this year, and I don't think anyone is doing a job that is like their dream job. Like, no one's doing the job that it's like, oh, this is what I prayed for. Everybody that has employment is grateful to be employed, because at the end of the day, there's millions of people that aren't employed. But it's just insane. It feels like life is being, I don't want to say delayed, but that's the mindset of somebody in my shoes, or that's the mindset of somebody in their early 20s. It's like, I'm really not settled. Like, I understand more and more why people say wait till your 30s to have kids. Now, obviously, I have my own plans, and I'm gonna continue to, graft, put that work in. But God forbid, in an alternate universe, that doesn't happen. You think I'm having kids in my 20s? Me and my friend were talking about it yesterday, how I'd always say, I would always tell them, like, yeah, I want to get married at 25. And they're like, and not even to speak negatively, but they're like, are you sure that 25 is really young? I don't think it's going to happen. But when you're so much younger, you see 25 as super grown. Like, it's almost mind-blowing. How could you be 25 and not have your life together? How could you be 25 and not have a car? How could you be 25 and not have your own place? And then you get to your early 20s and you're like, I see how you can be 25 and not have your own place. It is so hard. And literally, as you saw in that video, people in their mid-20s are still living at home. And before, like, if you asked me in secondary school what I thought about somebody still living with their parents at 25, like, what did I think? I would have told you, I think they're a bum. And I have to, I'm not 25, but I have had to realize that, okay, it's not as easy as I thought. It's not as easy as it once was, point blank, but it's not as easy as I thought, like, at all. And the young man in the beginning of the video, he raised such a good point, because how do you bring somebody home in your 20s? I mean, in your mid-20s, how do you bring somebody back to your parents' house? Like, how is the dating experience in your 20s when you don't really have privacy? There are some people that might even still be sharing a room with their siblings. Like, it just, I know people that are in their 20s that are still sharing rooms with their siblings. So how do you bring somebody back home? And you can imagine it only gets worse as you get older, especially if you're a man. I do think it gets a bit rough around them sides, because there is expectation, like, oh, this guy invited me to his place and it's his mum's house, or he invited me over and his mum's there, and it's like, it's just really rough. Like, dating is already hard enough as it is in this gen, so you can only imagine how much harder it is when there are things, or there's a life that you want to be living as a 20-year-old, as a 25, 26, 27-year-old, and you're just not there. So this reminded me of a discussion that there was on TikTok, the cost of shopping crisis, which is basically because, people in our 20s, people can't afford to even go, some people can't afford to go on dates, or now that there's this expectation, or the expectation has come back, that men should be paying for all of the dates, or at least the majority. It's like, sis, I can't even afford to take you out. And it's like, if I can't even afford to take you out, I can't really afford to move out, can I? So then I'm having to ask you to come over to my house, but it's very likely that my siblings will be there. It's likely that my mum will be there, or my dad, maybe even both of them. Or in a lot of, like, communities, you might have uncles and aunties that are staying. So now the only times really that I can have you come over so that there's, like, privacy, so is when they're not home. And it's like, how do you schedule in having, your cheeky little come over when everybody's out of the house, when your uncle or your auntie's out of the house, maybe your grandma lives with you, when your grandma's out of the house, when your sibling or siblings are out of the house, when your parents are out of the house? Because chances are, if they're all out of the house, they're either at work or at school, meaning you should probably be at work or at school. But it's like, with this whole unemployment thing, maybe you might be, do you see what I mean? There's so much that is going through the mind of someone in their 20s. It genuinely is so funny that I used to think that by 25 you should be established. I'm still praying. I still have a chance. But yeah, oh, like I can only imagine as well what it does for your self-esteem, because people always talk about like life after uni, but it's usually that like first year out of uni, especially people that left home, maybe went to the Midlands or just went somewhere else for uni, and then coming back home having to adjust to the fact that, wait, I just spent like a good 3-4 years by myself, managing myself, making my own rules. I go out and come back as I please, all of that jazz, and now you have to adjust to coming back and following somebody else's rules in some situations. If you're lucky, you maybe get to continue how you were living it at uni when you move back home. But for a lot of people, it's no, you come back to control, and oh, where are you going? Oh, you can't sleep out. Oh, you can't have this person come over. Oh, why are you doing this? Why? It's not easy. It's actually not easy. But I want to go back to talking about marriage. Can people even afford to get married anymore? Having to take out a big boy loan to be able to get married. And then it's like, if more and more young people in their 20s are staying home for longer, where is that opportunity for some people to be able to move out with their partner? Like, at what point does that come in? Because that's a whole other conversation, because some people feel like you shouldn't move in with the person you're dating before marriage. Other people feel like you should, and it's a necessary part of dating to know, are we gonna work when we get married and when we move in together? But if you are one of those people that wants to move out before marriage, how are you gonna do that when you're still in your parents' house, kind of just getting by, but you're in your parents' house, not by choice but by force? And a lot of the times, people that are still in their parents' house, I'd say particularly in their like late 20s, they're paying some sort of rent or paying towards, the household. But it still wouldn't compare to moving out with a partner where you're going to be paying, in some cases, half, or in other cases, one person takes on the entire responsibility, or takes on 70, 80, 90% of the responsibility. It doesn't compare. But it also leads me to another thing that I saw, which, let's watch that too, because I want to talk about it.
If my parents asked me to pay a penny in rent before I turned 25, I genuinely consider putting them in a nursing home. Bear in mind, this is coming from a guy who said I would never put my parents in a nursing home, care home, whatever you call it, old people homes. I would never do that to them, right? I'd always take care of them. But I gotta add stipulations now, right? I gotta add conditions, because that's ridiculous. Like, the sorrow I feel, the sadness I feel when someone who's like my age, like 20, 21, 22, and they tell me that their parents are literally saying to them, you have to pay rent, like you have to, or else you can't live here. Yeah, you're going in a nursing home. I don't know what the reception is going to be like to this video, but if it's not your responsibility to take care of me when I'm an adult, why is it my responsibility to take care of you when you're an adult? The one time I can understand is if like your parents are completely destitute and you're doing really good for yourself, and then obviously like they can't afford the house, then that makes sense. But if you're on like more or less the same economic level, which even that is a stretch, most people are struggling way more compared to their parents, like you've just become an adult, then asking you to pay rent is ridiculous. And I said 25 because I feel like if you're there at like 29, you gotta start paying something. You gotta rise side. But if you're below 25, yeah, let them live there for free. What we do.
And I have to say, young man, I agree with every single thing that he said in that video. One of the things I hate, and I don't know if that's something that a lot of white British people do as well, but I know we from the BAME community, people from African, I don't know if it necessarily happens in the Caribbean community. I'm gonna ask around, but like, I know as an African myself, I know a lot of people in the African community, a lot of people in the Asian community, Latino community. I'm just gonna say like ethnic minorities. That tends to be a thing where for some reason, I know people that started having to contribute or give portions of their student finance to their parents. Pardon me? pardon me. Now, that's not usually people that left home for uni. That's if you are staying at home, your parents might ask you to give, oh, it's time for you to start contributing to da 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 da. It genuinely baffles my mind. And let alone, I think I remember somebody telling me that after he left uni, his parents asked him, they were like, oh, so this is how much you're going to start giving us. He hadn't even had a graduate job yet. And they were already telling him how much he needed to be paying. And I hate it so much. And I don't understand. And things like this contribute to why more and more young people are staying at home. How are you supposed to save to be able to move out when you're paying basically for a 1-bedroom and your parents are your landlords? Not to mention, first of all, unless you have bought your house, it's actually illegal to rent it to people, because that's technically what you're doing. You are renting out your child's childhood bedroom to them. And I remember this whole conversation that was on TikTok where a girl, I think she was even sharing a room with her sister, had a bunk bed, and was being forced to give her mum like £500 a month or something. And I just, for me, I'm saying no. If you want to kick me out, kick me out. I mean, don't. But do you know what? I just don't like it. It's like, when does the parenting become so transactional? Yeah. When does it become so transactional? And I don't know if it's because, I guess, like, I can only speak as an African, but I do feel like for a lot of our parents and their generation, at the ages of 21, 22, 23, 20, 25, 26, 27, you are a lot more independent. Obviously, standards of living and cost of living is completely different over there than it is here, but there is definitely a bit more of a bigger sense of independence. Whereas I want to say we in our 20s here kind of rely a little bit more on our parents, which I think they're your parents. If I need to fall back on you and I'm 45, I should be able to do that. You're my mom and you're my dad. But yeah, there is just a little bit more of, I don't know. I think they kind of use that mentality. They think about what they were doing or how they were living at 23, 24, 26. And they're like, I'm actually coddling you, or I'm spoiling you, or I'm babying you. And then they start putting on these things. Oh yeah, you need to start paying rent. You need to start doing this. And it's just like, I just don't like that. That's just not the way it should be, in my opinion. I feel like once you get employment, you get a job and you're actually being paid well enough where you can sustain yourself, then I think it doesn't hurt. Like, chip in. Do you know what I mean? I don't need to be buying your toothpaste anymore. You're 25, you're still living with me, but you have a full-time job and you seem to be like okay. Do you know what I mean? I shouldn't have to buy your toiletries anymore. You can buy your own groceries. You can be cooking for yourself, or maybe I can give you like the light bill, or you'll pay Thames Water. Do you know what I mean? I think that is okay, but rent is where I feel like you are pushing. You're actually pushing it with the rent. And I think it's especially it is especially via, yeah, when you've actually been paying this just fine before, but it's like, for a lot of like ethnic minority parents, once they hear about you getting money, their ears are like and it's like that money becomes everybody's money, which is like, again, I can understand the cultural aspects where back home, once somebody starts getting money, it's not even a question of, oh, are you chipping in? That money goes towards the whole family. It's not your money now, it's everybody's money. So I guess I understand that, but girl, this is London. We don't do that here, you know? And I just don't like the fact that it's like, you've been raising me just fine. You've been raising me just fine. You've been paying the rent just fine. You've been paying the light or the gas, and you've been paying the water bill and all of these stuff, council tax, TV license. You've been paying all of that just fine. And then the minute you find out I have money, you're like, right, so this is what you're gonna, because it's like, did it ever dawn on you that maybe I had things that I planned to do with my paycheck that didn't include rent, that didn't include... And I can't lie, I do have to agree with him. I do think if you get to a certain age where it's like, okay, you've actually been working for years, or you just reached a certain age, I can understand you being given a bill to pay. And I don't even think that that's something just ethnic minorities would do. I think probably all parents would do that. They're like, okay, like, it's time to start having some more responsibilities, like, you know. And I think it is good practice, because I think if you go from never having to pay a bill to then all of a sudden moving out, having your own place, and now this is like your first time of having to account for, oh, at the end of the month I'm gonna have to pay X, Y, Z, it can be a bit of a jump and you can struggle with it. So it's not the worst idea, but I just feel like the immediate jump to, oh, it's time for you to start paying the council tax, but you were paying that fine the minute I graduated. Now all of a sudden I can't pay it. I think, like, can we try and give people an opportunity, like, give people a chance to actually stand on their 2 feet before we start asking them to pay this, that, and the third. So, I don't know. I'm not a cop, but that's just what I think. And that's how I landed on this conversation of, like, are you actually an adult in your 20s? Like, are you actually an adult in your 20s? You can barely date or date how an adult would date. You're probably maybe still stuck on, like, secondary school-ish dating where you can't come over, you can't come to my house, I can only see you, like, outside, but then maybe you can't even necessarily afford to constantly go on dates, and then you're still living at home. And I think another thing that I tend to not like is asking your child to pay rent to you. It might be a couple £100, which where are you gonna find a couple £100 a month in London? Nowhere. But it might be a couple £100, cool, but it's their childhood bedroom. Sis has a bunk bed in her room at 25 and you're asking her to pay rent to you. Sorry? Like, pardon me? Or the room has been the exact same state it's been since she was in year 8. But then, like, this is the space that you're saying, yeah, you need to pay for this. At least if somebody moves out, even if they started renting the room from somebody else, they could make up that room and do it up. But you're asking your daughter, asking your son to pay you a couple £100 to live in their room that still has, like, the Hannah Montana bed sheets that they had when they were in year 6. Or, oh my days, and I know that a lot of ethnic minorities can relate to this, yeah? Your room isn't even your room. Your room is their room and yours. When I used to share a room with my brother, which was only a few years ago, I only got my own room at 18. Yeah, 18. I remember November 2023. That's when I got my own room. So before that, me and my brother were sharing a room, and it was a small room, and we had a bunk bed. So you can already imagine things are hard enough as it is. My mom's keeping pots, she's keeping pans, she's keeping her shoes, she's keeping her suitcases. She has in our, like, chest of drawers, she has one that's reserved to her. Sister, you got your own room. And her room, it wasn't huge either, but it was bigger than ours, and it had a built-in wardrobe, which the wardrobe again wasn't big, but that's another wardrobe for you, you know. Built-in wardrobe. Then she obviously bought her own wardrobe, but you somehow have still ended up with stuff in our room. And I'm doing all this chatting right now. That suitcase that you see over there, my mum's stuff are in that suitcase. Why? And so it's like, imagine that is the kind of room you'll be staying in, and your mum or your dad is telling you, you need to give me £400 at the end of the month. You know, like, that's your rent. You're paying £400 in rent to stay in a room that you're sharing. Like, yeah, you sleep there, they don't sleep there, but you are sharing in my space that I'm allegedly paying for. This is the kind of stuff I mean, and this is the kind of stuff that is like, How can you actually feel like a real adult doing adult things at 25, 26 when this is the kind of environment that you're living in? So yeah, it's like, at what point do you actually feel like you left teenagehood and are truly, truly, truly in adulthood? Because you don't even get to truly have the responsibility. Anyone else hear that? Anyways, you don't get to even feel like you truly have the responsibilities of an adult because you're still, I guess, living as a teenager. It's like being a teenager but just with a little bit more money. But even then, it's like, is it really a little bit more money? It's just an all-round tough situation. All round, it's not fun for anybody. So I don't know what we're gonna do about this, but that's my observation for today.